Less Than Jake was formed in 1992 in Gainesville, Florida by Christy Makes, Roger Lima, Buddy Goldfinger Schaub, Vinnie Farello, and Jessica Mills. The band's name comes from the phrase "everything's Jake," meaning everything is alright, so Less Than Jake meaning everything's not alright, which is reflective of more of their earlier works. Less Than Jake is known for making ska punk music, with their earlier work sounding more like traditional ska punk, and their new albums adding in pop punk into the punk aspect of their music. They've released 8 major full-length albums and a bunch of EPs and singles. You might recognize them for their song "All My Best Friends Are Metalheads," which was featured in a bunch of media, including Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 and the Digimon movie. They also have some of their songs in other popular pieces of media, but that's probably their biggest claim to fame. Less Than Jake still releases music till this day, and their style has always stayed ska punk, but have constantly evolved their sound, with each of their major albums sounding different. Before we analyze all of their albums, let's discuss what makes Less Than Jake unique among a bunch of other ska punk bands. Less Than Jake utilizes distorted guitars, classic ska guitar and bass chords, those damn trumpets, and sometimes cynical and sometimes serious lyrics to make their own unique sound. While that might sound like other ska punk bands, Less Than Jake still separates itself from other bands with its previously mentioned evolving sound, and D-Makes and Lima's vocals that really add on to the sound and quality of each album. D-Makes and Lima are great vocalists, and are great to have for a ska punk band. D-Makes vocals are mostly energetic and upbeat, adding to the fast and radical sections of punk. Lima's vocals are calmer, smoother, and more emotional, adding to the paced out and slow parts of ska. Everything Less Than Jake released from 1992 to 1998 is exactly the definition of ska punk, and everything they released from 2000 to the present added in other genres of rock and punk into their sound, most notably pop punk. The thing that separates Less Than Jake's 2 major styles are the instruments. While the trumpets and drums don't sound that different, the guitar and bass is what changes their sound from traditional ska punk to ska punk and other rock genres. The guitar and bass change from ska chords and very fast riffs and choruses to more punk chords and riffs and choruses that are a little slower and more pop.
This is the old dude, Howard J. Reynolds, and you're listening to Less Than Jake.
Released on August 22, 1995, and November 12, 1996, Pezcore was Less Than Jake's first major full-length album, with Losing Streak following suit a year after. I decided to group these albums together because they sound pretty similar with their blaring trumpets, classic ska chords, and silly lyrics and vocals with serious meanings. Not to mention the scratchy sound quality. While these albums are pretty close in terms of their style, Losing Streak is, in my opinion, the better album because its general song structure is stronger than Pezcore's song structure. Pezcore still has that awkwardness of a lot of bands' first albums, in which they weren't sure what kind of style they wanted to go with. That quality can add charm to the album, but for me, it messes with the consistency of the album, which is another reason I like Losing Streak more. Anyways, my favorite songs were Johnny Quest Thinks We're Sellouts, Automatic, Night That Pine, and Happy Man. Released on October 6, 1998, Hello Rockview changes to include more rock and punk than previous albums, but still has enough ska to ensure it stays a traditional ska punk album. This album is pretty good, and a lot better than their previous two full-length albums. The mixing, instruments, and vocals in this album are really well done. The songs are very catchy and enjoyable. This album lets the punk side of ska punk take over, and rightfully so. The fast sections do their part in giving energy to the album, and slower parts to pace out the album and make sure Hello Rockview can stay serious even with the cynicism thrown in. This album contains the famous song All My Best Friends Are Metalheads, which, as previously mentioned, starred in many pieces of media and has its share of influence on the rock genre. My favorite songs off of Hello Rockview were Last One Out of Liberty City, History of a Boring Town, Great American Sharpshooter, and Zany Says. Released on October 24, 2000, Borders and Boundaries is where Les and Jake started developing their new ska punk style, and it works well. This album takes a page from Hello Rockview and mixes it with a bit more pop and less punk. It's got some catchy tunes, although it does seem to fluctuate in quality. Some songs on here are really good and definitely should be on this album, but others are just alright and don't really add much to the album. Other than that, I don't really have much to say about this album. It's decent, but I don't really think there is a lot to talk about from here. Nothing really sticks out. Anyways, my favorite songs were Kehoe,
Ideals are like opinions, beliefs just like tradition. Yeah, sometimes both are not enough.
Malt Liquor Tastes Better When You Got Problems,
And I've been so busy trying that I only wound up living weekend to weekend getting.
Bad Scene in a Basement Show,
It gets worse before it's all over. I know I'll get through this somehow.
and The Last Hour of the Last Day of Work.
So when ambition turns into competition, I'll never be the better man. So when ambition. I've come to my senses.
Released on May 20th, 2003, Anthem takes Les and Jake's new style and runs with it, while also being a pretty damn good album. This album is a lot more energetic than Borders and Boundaries, and has a better mixing of the elements of ska and punk. Many Les and Jake fans state Anthem as their favorite album, and it's easy to see why. The vocals are top notch. D-Makes and Lima really outdid themselves. The trumpets aren't as frequent as they were in previous albums, but I think it's for the better, and it's not like they're completely gone or uncommon. I think this better pacing of the trumpets really helps with the quality of the album, while still maintaining its identity as ska punk. This album includes the famous That's Why They Call It a Union, made popular with its inclusion in Tony Hawk Underground 2. My favorite songs off of Anthem were The Ghost of Me and You,
And all those plans we had to get us through, they're never coming true.
The Science of Selling Yourself Short,
Yeah, with every emergency, just sing along. I'm the king of catastrophes.
Plastic Cup Politics,
Hello, Mr. Six-Pack of Confidence. I'm glad to see you've already met Miss 12 ounces of loneliness. Yeah, Mr. Plastic Cup Politics.
and Motown Never Sounded So Good.
Yeah, I can't get enough. I'm not satisfied. I've wasted my time with this daily
Released on May 23, 2006, In With the Outcrowd takes a turn for a more pop punk and pop rock sounding music rather than the ska punk style established beforehand. I think this is their best album, and yes, I'm aware that's an unpopular opinion. I can understand why fans are not necessarily so accepting of this album. This album is amazing for a pop punk and pop rock style, but Less Than Jake already established themselves as a ska punk band, so the resentment is somewhat justified. And for the record, while this album is less ska punk than its predecessors, it still has elements of ska punk in it, with traditional ska chords and trumpets in there every so often. Anyways, this album has a lot of polish. No songs feel repetitive, they're all unique and well put together. With that being said, I wouldn't consider this album to be perfect. Let Her Go and P.S. Shock the World really don't have the same enjoyability as every other song. It's not like they're terrible songs, they have their merits, but they just don't have the same quality as the rest of the album does. Now, let me contrast the worst songs on this album to the best songs. They were A Still Alive Franchise,
So I say goodbye, and I'll just say so long. Almost feeling paralyzed.
Fall Apart,
It's not that hard to just fall apart, fall apart. It's not that hard to just fall apart. I'm falling apart.
Independence Day,
Borderline, day after day, waiting to get knocked off my feet again. Time passes by.
and The Rest of My Life.
You won't forgive me the rest of my life. Let me apologize why I'm still alive. I know it's time to face.
Released on June 24, 2008, Gainesville, Florida takes the punk rock sound from In With the Outcrowd and mixes it with their ska punk sound from Borders and Boundaries and Anthem. This album is decent. It's no Anthem or In With the Outcrowd, but it has its moments. It implements more ska chords, and trumpets are more frequent in this album, going back to their original form. I suppose they wanted to sway more towards ska due to the reception In With the Outcrowd had, and critiques that it was a lot more pop punk rather than ska punk. I'm not the biggest fan of this album, as you can probably tell. I just don't think it's that engaging, energetic, or as grabbing as their previous albums were. All of the other albums I listened to were from start to finish. Those albums had me wanting more. Gainesville though, I listened to half on one day, and the other half on another day, and did the same when I re-listened to this album for this review. For their least best album though, it's not bad, just not on the same level as other Less Than Jake stuff. Anyways, my favorite songs were The State of Florida,
And the city skyline hasn't looked the same since the boom and Florida's real estate. It's turning into more than I can take. Too much, too soon, too little, too late.
Sewing Monsters,
Calling all mothers and fathers. Come get your sons and daughters right now. They're on corners, finding ways to cure their boredom. I'm sitting right there with them.
Handshake meets Poker Face,
From 9 to 5, crossing T's and dotting I's, and neon lights can't hide that she's lost her shine. She says the mornings always taste like turpentine.
and Settling Sun.
Is it all it's cracked up to be? But the years go lightning fast, that I just can't help but see. It's the new standard of living on a thinner thread, and the new look now is wanting more but have a little less. The new you isn't who you thought you knew, but it's what's left. Let me catch my breath. Let me try and start explaining this.
Released on November 12, 2013, See the Light takes a page from Gainesville, Florida, but is a lot better when it comes to executing its sound. This album has more energy and better vocals than Gainesville. The vocals seem to really hit in this album. There are times where Lima and D-Mace can move the listener with their lyrics and singing in See the Light. This album modernizes Less Than Jake's music from the late 90s and mid-2000s, and does so in a way so it's catchy and very enjoyable. This newfound energy probably comes from the positive vibes from this album. Roger Lima and drummer Vinny Ferrillo claimed this album was a pure form of Less Than Jake and decided to do whatever they liked. They didn't take any input from others not in the band. Both members also commented on the positivity of the album, explaining they wanted listeners to chill out and enjoy the ride of life, hence the album's name and artwork, See the Light. This positivity definitely helped with this album's enjoyability, as it could be heard in not just the vocals, but instruments due to the aforementioned high energy in each song. My favorite songs were My Money's on the Long Shot,
And my chances can't get worse. And the truth stings.
American Idol,
The kids from the cul-de-sacs that got out somehow without looking back. It's over. It's over.
The Troubles,
We were always happy cause we don't make any sense. And we were always happy cause we don't make any sense.
and Sunstroke.
When did I become a tourist in the city I got my name from? How did construction sites rise up on streets with shoes?
On December 11, 2020, Less Than Jake released Silver Linings. It was supposed to be released earlier in 2020, but I think we all know why it got delayed. This album is pretty much See the Light 2.0. I still like it, there's a lot of things in here I enjoy, but it doesn't have too much to separate it from its predecessor. The energy, the vocals, the instruments, and the composition are very similar to See the Light, and subtle things are really the only thing separating this album from See the Light. So there's really nothing to talk about in this part of the video. And for that reason, I'm gonna cut straight to my favorite songs, which were Lie to Me,
Say you need me one more time. Tell me there's more that connects us than the days we left behind.
Anytime and Anywhere,
My only status quo is slipping when I'm climbing. I've got a useless sense of timing, so I apologize for jumping to conclusions. I just don't know what I should do cause I can't
The High Cost of Low Living,
take it what I make and spend it on a Saturday night. Try to make a living, maybe I just ain't living right, but I found my paradise.
and so much less.
Don't leave me here. I'd rather disappear than wake up in the same old skin the morning after.
As mentioned before, Less Than Jake has a bunch of stuff other than their main albums, including a bunch of EPs. I'd recommend listening to B is for B-Sides, which was released right after Anthem, so it has the same style. It's not as good as Anthem, but it's still pretty good. In all honesty, it's probably their best EP. Robots 1, Human 0, Sleep It Off, and ASAOK are my personal favorites from this EP. Less Than Jake also has other EPs like the Pez Collection and Sound the Alarm that are also pretty decent. It sounds similar to the latest album released according to their release date, like Sound the Alarm is closest in terms of style to See the Light, which was their most recent album when Sound the Alarm was released. Less Than Jake also has the TV EP, which is just a bunch of TV theme songs and commercial covers. I really don't have much to say about it. It's alright. Very cheesy though. I mentioned before how Silver Linings was delayed thanks to COVID-19, but Silver Linings wasn't the only music released by Less Than Jake in 2020. They also released a volume of songs called the Lost at Home Sessions. They're not bad. They sound very similar to See the Light and Silver Linings, for obvious reasons.
Latest information, does it change your observation? Can you really be sure of it?
Other than that, there's not much else notable miscellaneous projects from Less Than Jake. All in all, Less Than Jake has plenty of good material and know how to make great music when they put their mind to it. Starting as a classic 90s ska punk band, Less Than Jake has been mostly successful in modernizing their music as to ensure their sound never feels bland or too repetitive. Since Less Than Jake has so much stuff, I made a flowchart here to make it easier to get into their music without having to think too much about which album to listen to. And until next time, listen to those trumpets.